I want to tell you a story today about what the future is going to look like and who the people are who are going to shape it. But to tell that story, I want to start in an unlikely place to understand the future, the past. At the beginning of the 20th century, the Industrial Revolution was going through an accelerated phase. The previous century had brought us the basic fruits of industrialization: the cotton gin, the steam engine, and interchangeable parts. Along with these innovations, they had created a society that resembled the hierarchical factory system. But at the beginning of this new phase, we saw quantum breakthroughs. The automobile, the airplane, and the harnessing of electricity. These innovations helped usher in democratizing political and cultural changes, like the beginnings of public education and the New Deal. To many, the world seemed to be in a state of chaos. The idea that railroads and horses would no longer be the dominant modes of transportation seemed radical. So too did the idea of women having the right to vote. Many businessmen didn't understand how big this change would be. They failed to adapt either because they were uncomfortable or they didn't know how. In this time period, young upstart competitors, comfortable with the changing times, rose to the top. People like Thomas Edison saw the future that was approaching and adapted pragmatically in order to become part of it. Edison marched on with his innovations unconcerned about what it might mean for the future of horse and buggy whip makers. Once every few generations, we have a revolution that shifts the fundamentals of our economy, society, and culture. It changes the way we communicate and the way we interact with each other. We're in the midst of one of those shifts right now. Our modern world is, of course, a world of 24/7 communication, millions of apps and big data. But it's also a world whose social software is being rewritten as we speak. The laws that govern the social contract in a civilized society have not seen as much change since 200 years ago in the First Continental Congress. Our political systems, our business models, our values, and our lifestyles are all undergoing massive change. Of course, our world is constantly changing. But if over the past few centuries, the rate and pace of that change has been increasing steadily. New technologies are being developed faster than ever before. Consider this. In 1997, when the Palm Pilot was introduced to great fanfare, it took 18 months for it to sell 1 million units. In 2010, the iPad took just 24 hours to sell the same amount. But it's not just technology that's changing fast. Everything is changing. In the past few years, our political system has experienced some of the most volatile change it has ever seen. We went from this to this to this, and from this to this. This is the new world we are living in. This is the fast future. Change is fast, and change is constant. In 1968, the film 2001: A Space Odyssey envisioned what the world might be like in the then far-off year of 2001. The filmmakers thought that 30-plus years seemed like a reasonable amount of time for a massive shift to a space world to take place. Of course, they were wrong. But today, we can't realistically look more than a few years into the future. The world is changing so much so fast that our businesses, our government, and our people haven't always had appropriate amount of time to catch up. Our world runs on an operating system. And like a computer operating system, it occasionally gets updates. Sometimes the updates are small, and things change without us even noticing. Other times, we're prompted to make an update ourselves. But then sometimes we wake up, and it's changed so much that we feel like we skipped a version. Well, our world has a new operating system, the kind that seems like it skipped a version. That's because this operating system has been created by a new generation, the Millennials. The Millennials are the people who are today between the ages of 20 and 30. We're the largest generation in history. There are more than 80 million of us in the US alone, and almost 1 billion worldwide. We're the most global generation. We can connect with peers anywhere in the world with just one click. We're the most connected generation. 92% of us are regularly online. We're writing this new operating system that's governing the world we're all living in. We're writing it by creating new kinds of businesses, like Facebook and Twitter, that help to connect and empower our voices, as well as companies like Tom Shoes that aim to do good and do well at the same time. The authors of this code are visible throughout our generation. Some of them are people we all know. Others are people we all see every day who, through user power, social attitudes, and consumer power, are helping to push the rules into being of the world we'll all live in. Unlike generations who've come before us, we have context. We understand this new operating system intuitively. We've spent our recent years absorbing technology and all its possibilities. Unlike generations that will come after us, we have context. We understand what the world was like before the fast future. We spent our formative years understanding the value and importance of resilience and adaptability. We saw the 9/11 attacks, and we learned that our world is not an island, that we're deeply connected to a troubled geopolitical landscape. We saw the impeachment of a president and the rise of a politics of extreme personal destruction that made us skeptical about the power of politics to enact big change. We saw our peers kill our peers in Columbine, and we learned that danger could be just in the next classroom. These experiences all took place at key moments in our own personal development. They've made us eager to address the challenges in our world, and they've made us understand them as part of our own consciousness. In the 2008 financial crisis, the millennials actually became more optimistic about their own economic future, while other generations became more pessimistic. Millennials responded to the crisis by creating their own jobs and opportunities. This is an adaptability that will suit us well in the fast future world. Criticisms have been leveled against our generation that we're all moving in with our parents, that our economic growth will be stunted so much, so early, that we'll never recover, that we're consumeristic, narcissistic, entitled. But in fact, this generation has a powerful theory of social change. As we've been writing this operating system, we've seen the challenges in our world, and we've come to develop a certain method of approaching them that blends two things that we might think of as contradictory. Our theory of social change is called pragmatic idealism. Pragmatic idealism means that while we very much want to make big changes in our world, we understand you need to have a plan in order to do that. That plan involves working with existing institutions, whether they're governments or political systems, but it also means creating our own institutions, often at the same time. Pragmatic idealism is exemplified by people like Mark Rembert and Taylor Stuckert. Mark and Taylor grew up in Wilmington, Ohio, and they went away to college. They came back home in 2008. They thought they were just home for a quick trip before heading off to join the Peace Corps. When they came home, they saw the devastation that the economic crisis had wrought on Wilmington. A DHL plant closed, and overnight, 8,500 jobs were lost. Unemployment skyrocketed to 18%, some of the highest anywhere in the nation. Mark and Taylor knew they couldn't fix the global economy, but they could fix their beloved hometown. So they created an organization called Energize Clinton County with the goal of transforming the members of their community into agents of economic change. They created a fellows program to bring Wilmington's best and brightest back home to help local businesses understand the emerging economy. They certified the region as Ohio's first ever green enterprise zone. They created a countywide campaign to encourage people to buy local products. Last year, Mark became the director of the Wilmington-Clinton County Chamber of Commerce. And together, Mark and Taylor are bringing their town back. They're just two of the many pragmatic idealists in this generation who are changing the world in the ways that they best can and best know how. You know, we're far from the first generation who wants to change the world. Our parents' generation, the boomers, under the specter of the Vietnam War and intense racism, wanted to bring about peace and achieve equality for all. But they saw the system as the enemy, an impossible partner. They often even advocated for overthrow of that system. When their goals were achieved, the Vietnam War ended and civil rights legislation enacted, much of their political and social movement dissipated. Because of the fast future we've come of age in, we believe that these problems will be things we'll be working on for our entire lives. An issue like global climate change is a complex set of interlocking problems. We understand that this is something that can only be achieved in the long term, although there's fierce urgency to starting work on it now. We fully expect and understand to be working on these challenges for the rest of our lives. Our generation believes fundamentally in a more open, more sharing, and connected world. And we also believe that technology is one of the greatest forces pushing this into being. When youth and pragmatic idealism merge with technology, we've seen what happens. Every generation is the product of its times, but the times that we've come of age in and the way we've responded to it give us the potential to be the greatest agents of change in this century. What we've already accomplished is impressive. We've toppled dictators, elected a president. We've created a social network that connects over 1 billion people. We've also pushed businesses into being more socially responsible. Remember, most of us aren't even 30. Now, as our world is on the cusp of a once-in-a-century revolution, our generation has the true potential to change the world.